What's up, y'all? This NBA season, every shot you take with Fanatics Sportsbook puts points on the board. Earn up to 10% fan cash on your bets, win or lose. So even if your bet misses, you're still scoring fan cash. Unlock the world of Fanatics with FanCash for exclusive rewards like authentic apparel, game tickets, and meeting legends at Fanatics events. Make the switch and turn every bet into a bucket with Fanatics Sportsbook. Winning hits different here.
Oh, that was hysterical. Somewhere Tom Thibodeau just had a heart attack. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show presented by our friends at Fanatics Sportsbook, where we are here to talk about a very interesting game against the Orlando Magic, in which the Knicks obtained their first win in 3 tries against said Orlando Magic team. Final score, I believe, was 106 to 100, although I think I blacked out at a certain point when that thing was coming down the stretch. A lot to talk about in this game, for sure. A lot to talk about, and I think it's going to be mostly good, although I could, it'll be good, and then there will be some interesting conversation points, shall we say, probably before the time we are through. I do want to open the show by saying, what's the right word? Best of luck, and I hope everything is okay with Franz Wagner. Franz Wagner, who is one of the best young players in basketball. It seems actually disingenuous to call him a young player because he's playing like a KG vet at this point. He was on his way, without question, to his first All-Star game, and I hope he will still be on his way to his first All-Star game, and that this is not a serious injury, but it didn't look great. I mean, he was making a push for All-NBA. So I want to open the show just by sending out some positive vibes to him. You know, you never want to see an opposing player go down with an injury, unless they're Joel Embiid, obviously. Fuck that guy. But no, Franz is a good dude, and obviously Huck Porty, no ill intent there from Ariel. But I also wanted to open the show with the shout out to Franz, because the one thing that I don't want to do, and I'm not going to do, is to diminish what was an impressive win because Franz Wagner left this game, whatever it was, 2/3 of the way into the first quarter in a game that I think it was a 4-point game at the time. Orlando was up by 4. I want to say it was 22-18. It felt like they were in pretty much complete control of the game. And if you're someone that was watching that game and say, oh, this is going to be another Knick loss to this Magic team, I'm not going to blame you for that. But part of the reason why the Magic have I don't want to say thoroughly dominated the Knicks, because I don't think that's fair. They have outplayed the Knicks as much as any team in the NBA this year. Let's say that. Part of the reason is because the Knicks have allowed Orlando's physicality to get to them, to impact their ability to be successful at both ends of the floor. I do not think that they, at any point in time in the previous 2 games, handled the Magic physicality all that well when they were trying to defend Orlando. And I certainly don't think they handled it all that well at various points in time when they were trying to score against Orlando. Now, I do think they solved some of those issues in their last game, and specifically in the second half when they put up a lot of points. But it was not to anybody's liking. And I thought the effort that you saw the Knicks come out with today, and this is my leading takeaway from the game, and you look at the final score, and I think the final score says a lot, 106-100, very different sort of basketball game than the last 2 that these 2 teams have played. We're going to get to it in a little bit. For my best bet, I took the under on this game, and I took the under without seeing what the line was. And it obviously it hit. So for them to kind of embrace the physicality, and like, look, it's tough to talk about this Magic team without talking about what they get away with and what they are allowed to get away with by the refs, and then what is called versus what is not called, and all those sorts of things. So I do want to be careful, about how I discuss this game. I will just say I thought the Knicks embraced the challenge tonight at both ends of the floor, and it wasn't always pretty. This was an ugly basketball game at times. I thought there were times where I was checking in at chatnicks.com, our chat, which is almost 500 strong. Shout out to everybody in there. And there were some times during the game where people were a little, disenchanted with how the Knicks were playing. And I with all due respect to everybody in there, I kind of never shared that opinion, because when you play against this Magic team, these are going to be the sort of games that look ugly. They feel ugly. They feel like your team, whatever team you root for, is leaving stuff. Is leaving meat on the bone. Is leaving potential plays or points out there on the court. And the honest truth is that that's because the Magic play a brand of basketball more similar to what the Knicks used to play, where teams would face the Knicks and they would lose these games and then be like, and you'd hear fans upset at their own team. And once is an accident, Once is an accident, twice a coincidence, three times the trend. Well, it happened an awful lot. And eventually people just started coming around to the idea like, look, this is who the Knicks are. They involve you in ugly basketball games, and they know how to win a lot of them. That's this Magic team. So rarely are you going to go out there and play against the Orlando Magic and look great, even without Franz Wagner in there. It is a mentality that they have that is instilled by their coach, who went from being under fire to now is, especially if they get holed up for however long Franz is out, is going to probably find himself back in the Coach of the Year race. Anyway, so that's one reason why I don't want to diminish this win just because Franz went out. The other reason is that the Knicks were missing one of their own big guns in Karl-Anthony Towns. And before we get into all of the praise, and there's going to be a lot of praise to dish out after this win for a lot of players, including some unheralded players who have not had the opportunity to have praise bestowed upon them that much this season, I want to start with Kat, because I do think that is one of the most interesting, takeaways from the game. And I was struggling with the word there because I don't know exactly what the takeaway is. On one hand, the Knicks scored 106 points. They shot 43% from the field. They shot 31% from three. And then if you look at their shot chart, they took 35 threes, which means some quick math, means they took 56 shots that were inside the arc. Now, points in the paint, the Knicks scored 50. That's obviously a good deal. But if you looked at how the Knicks offense operated tonight, it felt like a lot of times they were operating in a phone booth and they were working really hard. Again, it evoked Knick games of old. And I think the reason for that is because Karl-Anthony Towns was not out there to stretch the floor. And you felt the loss of his offensive impact, even putting aside what he does on an individual basis, hitting threes, driving, all those sorts of things. Now, he has had some immense struggles against this Magic team this year and against physical teams in general. So I'm not sure how much we were going to be able to count on Cat having a great individual scoring game. But either way, you missed him on the offensive end. And yet, everybody knows what my favorite words have become this year. And yet, you look up, Mitchell Robinson played, I have to think this is a season high, 25 minutes, got 8 offensive rebounds. There were times in this game, as there have been times for months at a time in recent years, where it felt like the Knicks' best offense was Mitchell Robinson grabbing an offensive rebound and kicking it out for another bite at the apple. So that's number one. Number two, it was hard for me to watch this game personally and not think about how they were sturdier, and especially sturdier in the half court defense, because their defense on when the Magic were getting out and running was an atrocity. You know what? I'm going to pull back. It wasn't an atrocity. I'm going to get back to that in a sec, because I want to talk about their defense on Magic fast breaks. Not even fast breaks, just Magic pushing the pace. But let's stick with the half court for a minute. The Magic in this game, and this is a team, I know Orlando has the reputation that they have of being a dumpster fire or an offensive team. For anybody who may not have been paying attention over what's been going on recently, the Magic over the last, I just pulled up the last 10 games. They're 7th in the NBA in offense. Now, if you want to throw this back at my face and say, well, yeah, the Magic scored 100 points because they didn't have Franz, they did have Paolo. Now, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of conversation on Magic postgame shows about Paolo Banchero and what he maybe did or did not do tonight. In theory, because my issue with the Paolo Franz thing is I don't think they work great as a tandem. I think one of them is better than both of them. Now, the Magic started off the game like gangbusters, so that would seem to be evidence against my theory. But in any case, they still had Paolo. And so, and it didn't make a difference. I thought the Knicks did a really, really nice job. And I thought the only thing that was keeping the Magic offense in it for a lot of this game was they were just hitting threes at a rate that they usually don't hit. And I thought the Knicks were defending at a really high level in the half court. Does this team still have issues defensively that have nothing to do with Cat? Absolutely. They do not stay in front often enough. They do allow a little bit too much penetration. It was a little painful to watch, their best non-OG defender, Mikal Bridges, kind of not really be able to solve Des Bane. I think that was going on in the third quarter, and then they're just small. But if you look at what they were able to do out there and have Mitchell Robinson and Ariel Hukporti, and we're getting there, I promise, on the floor for 23, 25 for all 48 minutes. I could have sworn I thought there was like a minute of like Yabo at the 5. I guess not. I guess I was imagining that. So to have 48 minutes of, I'm going to say it, really good defense at the 5, Mitch may have gotten, had a couple of moments in the first half where he wasn't able to keep up or whatever. I thought Mitch played an awesome game. And you know what? Let's get to that right now, because in Cat's place were these two guys who played, as I just said, the entire game. And I think you can, it's not even a question that this was Ariel Hukporti's best game of the season. And I think you could make an argument that this was Mitchell Robinson's best game of the season. He has had more offensive rebounds in a game, I'm pretty sure, at some point this year, although he had 8 in 25 minutes. It's not bad. 13 rebounds in total. Did a couple of things on offense, actually. Also had a steal and a block. And so to see, I think, probably the best version of Mitch that we have seen on the defensive end. He's always awesome on the boards, but on the defensive end, I think that was a massive takeaway and probably the biggest big picture takeaway for me, other than the Knicks just, like, again, handling the Magic physicality pretty well in this game. But Ariel Hukporti, I'll throw it back to my girl, Monica McNutt. I had her on the first episode of NBA Takedown back before the Knicks played their first game in the middle of October. Came on with me and Jeff and Sean, and I asked her, I was like, give me a Knicks take that's not something that's already been talked about to death. Something that you're looking for, you're thinking about, you're excited about. And way back when, almost 2 months ago, she was like, Ariel Hukporti. I think Ariel Hukporti is going to have a big year. And, that looked like a stretch at first when he got on the court, and it looked like he had actually regressed from last season. But what do we always say? Or what do I always try to say, at least? Development, not always linear. And we talk all about Karl-Anthony Towns' difficulties adjusting to what Mike Brown is asking of him when he plays the center position, and Gershon Yabusele's difficulties adjusting to what Mike Brown is asking of him to do when he plays the center position. And yet we haven't really had that conversation about Ariel Hukporti, who we should remember is a second-year player. And I know he, is a little bit older, but like, it's not like this guy is a five-year vet. He's still a young player relative to his experience in the league. So I really hope that what we saw today can be something of a springboard moving forward, because they need him. They need him. Mitchell Robinson, we know this is, he's going to miss more games. We know Karl-Anthony Towns, he's not going to play 81 games. So I thought you could look. I don't know that he will be one of my stars of the game. He probably will, actually. But I thought Ariel Hukporti's performance tonight was the biggest story from this game. It may be not the most impactful thing when it comes to like big picture stuff, although you do have to get through the regular season. And there's going to be regular season minutes there for Hukporti. And so for him to go out there and like, I'm just going to read his stat line real quick. In 23 minutes, Hukporti, 6 points. So you like that. He 4 for 4 from the line. How you doing? 7 rebounds, 3 blocks and a steal. And I don't even think the 3 blocks and a steal encompass for me what was most impressive, which is that he looked very comfortable and not overmatched and not intimidated in the pick and roll, in drop coverage, in the pick and roll. It looked like his placement, his moving his feet. He was getting good contests. His help defense all night was on point. Everything you wanted to see from Ariel Hukporti in this game, I think you saw. So when combined with Mitchell Robinson, which is again what makes the Knicks didn't have Karl-Anthony Towns in this game conversation an interesting one. Now look, no one should be at least arguing that the Knicks are a better team without Karl-Anthony Towns. That's crazy talk. They need him. They need him to be at his best. They need him to be at his best defensively. They need him to be his best offensively, individually. But if we're just talking about like one game and the season that Cat has had against these more physical teams, if you wanted to tell me that the Knicks, they didn't lose a ton from not having Cat in this game because of what Mitch gave them and because of what Hukporti gave them, I think that would be at least it would be an argument. You could make the argument. I'm not sure if I would make the argument. I think you could make the argument. Anyway, so that is kind of my big leading story. The other big, I guess, leading story for me is OG Anunoby. He had his appetizer, his I don't know, a bowl of soup, cup of soup against the Utah Jazz. They didn't need him against that Jazz team. They needed him tonight, and he showed up big. 21 points, 8 of 14 from the field, 5 of 7 from 3. Boy, did they miss that. And then defensively, I mean, he had 3 steals, but like you saw it on so many possessions. The next highest Knick in terms of individual plus minus in this game, ironically enough. Oh, wait, no, actually, sorry. It was Jalen Brunson. Okay. I thought we were going to go to someone else who we'll talk about in a bit. Jalen Brunson was plus 11. OG Anunoby was a plus 20. So that means in the 20 minutes that he was not on the floor, the Knicks were outscored by 14 points, and that doesn't surprise me at all. So awesome stuff from OG Anunoby, just everywhere they needed him to be on defense, and he's still ramping up. You can tell he's not fully back all the way yet. And so not only a big thanks to OG Anunoby for coming up and playing an incredible game, but thanks to OG Anunoby for being involved in, I think, what has to be the single funniest basketball. I was about to say basketball play, not a basketball play, not an anything play. That was the closest thing that I've ever seen on a professional field or court of any kind to what Des Bane did in literally just from a standstill position, chucking the ball off OG Anunoby's back, OG being out of bounds, was when like a quarterback rifles the ball into the ground, after a play has been whistled dead or when they're outside the pocket and there's nothing going on and they're going to throw it into the ground. It was a football play, if anything. And I want to emphasize the if anything. Andrew Claudio, my guy, texted during the game and he was like, are we playing dodgeball out there? You could make a dodgeball comp. So that's fine. I mean, was Ben Stiller in the building? Maybe that's why Des Bane did that. Maybe Des Bane was auditioning for Dodgeball 2, and I apologize if there has already been a Dodgeball 2 made. I don't think there has been. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. So that was really funny. And then a couple more things before I get out of here. I mentioned Ariel Hukporti as like kind of the main unsung hero, or not unsung hero, but as the main guy who doesn't usually get his flowers, that should get his flowers after this game. The other guy I want to shout out is Gershon Yabusele, who 2 or 3 from deep. All of his field goals were from long range. Got to the line, made both of his free throws. 8 points. Ended up only playing 11 minutes. And again, Mike, this is another one where Mike Brown's rotations are interesting. He had Yabu come in for OG. So Yabu was the first sub in the game, 4 minutes into the game, or 5 minutes into the game, whatever it was. I thought he played a pretty good stint. I thought he played arguably his best stint as a Knick, or one of his 2 or 3 best stints as a Knick. And then he doesn't get on the floor again for a while in the second half. Look, Mike Brown's is marching to the beat of his own drummer, and that's fine because he's pushing rather a lot of correct buttons. So I'm not going to give Mike Brown any shit at all, but I did find that to be interesting. In any case, so shout out to Yabusele. Kolek, not a crazy night for him. But I did think his basket at the start of the fourth quarter was an important one, just because you were like, it was a close game. You were wondering how are the Knicks going to score with Jalen Brunson out. Deuce McBride. I should mention Deuce. I wrote Deuce up here too. So let me get to him. So Deuce McBride landed, he was fouled because the Knicks were fouled 8,000 times tonight and nothing was called. He was fouled. Actually, that one was called. Sorry, my mistake. The refs actually got that one right. And through the contact or whatever, suffered some sort of a lower leg injury. Shot the free throw, stayed in the game, went down the court, had a defensive possession, and then had to ask out of the game. I don't need to tell anybody. I know he didn't shoot it well tonight. I don't need to tell anybody here how important Deuce McBride is to this team. Hopefully, that is not a serious injury. Hopefully. The Knicks play 2, I guess maybe 3 games, but it depends if they make the cup final. They play 2 games that count in the standings over the next, what is it going to be? Over the next 7, 8, 9, I think 10 days. Pretty sure they play 2 in the next 10 or 2 in the next 9, whatever it is. So if McBride is down with something, I know everybody loves the cup. Yay. We rah, the whole thing. Sorry, Andrew, I just saw your message. The cup, go win the cup, the whole thing. I'm more care about like whatever. There are 2 games on the schedule. So I would rather Deuce McBride if he is hurt, if he has to miss some time, I would rather him miss 2 games than 4 games or 5 games or however many games sometimes the Knicks or the NBA packs into a 9 or 10 day span. What else before Jordan Clarkson? I don't have anything to say about Jordan Clarkson. Jordan's he's pushing it. I'll just say that he's pushing it a little bit. I'm just going to move on from that. So what I want to end on are Mikal Bridges shout outs. I know he didn't shoot well, 6 of 17. I thought Mikal Bridges actually played a nice game. The last guy that I want to talk about and I want to end on is Josh Hart. Josh Hart had for him, I would say a quiet 17 and 12. But I thought Josh Hart was the unsung hero of the game. They do not win this game without Josh Hart. He was there with a field goal or a 3-point field goal or a 2-point field goal, whatever. Every time they needed him to be. I thought defensively, he was really good tonight. And we have seen him be not really good at times against this Magic team this year. So great stuff from Josh Hart. And did I talk about Jalen Brunson? I don't think I talked about Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson, awesome game. 30 points, 23 shots. Weird Jalen Brunson game in that he couldn't miss in the first quarter. Then he couldn't hit anything in the second quarter. Then he couldn't miss at the start of the third quarter. Then he couldn't hit anything at the end of the third quarter. And then the fourth quarter, I think he was fine. He was somewhat mediocre. Very strange Brunson game. Only 1 of 7 from 3. Maybe that's all it was. He was 9 of 16 inside the arc, which against this Magic team is exceptional. And they just, on a night like tonight, that's why the funniest part of this game, and obviously I opened the show with a joke about it. Mike Brown took out his core players with I think he did it after Jamal Mosley took out his key players, and Mike Brown's like, all right, if you're taking your guys out, I'll take my guys out. The game was not over yet. And the Magic had some shots there late, and they thankfully did not make this even more interesting than it should have been. But I have to think one of the reasons that Brown did that was because Jalen Brunson was at 37 minutes, and he would have been at 39 minutes if he had kept him in for the entirety of the time. And of course, he had to put Jalen Brunson back in for the last 30 seconds or whatever it was. So yeah, great game, Jalen Brunson. That's it. I don't think that there's anything this was just a good win. This was a good win against a team that they really struggle with. And, and I think that this Knicks team as currently constituted is going to continue to struggle. And this, put Cat aside, the Magic are so freaking big. And even their guards are big. Suggs plays big. Anthony Black plays big. They're just huge across the board. So when you have a Knicks team that obviously wants Jalen Brunson on the floor for whatever, 35, 36, 37 minutes, and then you have Deuce McBride getting big minutes and Jordan Clarkson getting big minutes, and currently Tyler Kolek getting important minutes. It's just a lot of small guys out there against a team that is so freaking big. So that's why that really, more than anything, is at the heart of me starting the show tonight with praise of this win. I think this is a win that should be praised. I think it was an important win. I said with Benji on Thursday night, before even the Jazz game, I said with Benji on Thursday night, there's no such thing as must wins in December. But the Sunday, this game today was a must show up, and honestly, I actually will go the extra step and say after Franz left, I did think at that point it was not a must. Again, there's no such thing as a must win now, but it was okay, the door got open for you. Now you're on even ground. Their all-stars out. Your all-star, even though he hasn't played like an all-star this year, is out. You're home. Go out and win the basketball game. And they went out and won the basketball game. So very impressive stuff from our Knicks today.
Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Not available in all states. Terms apply. See the Fanatics Sportsbook app.